Good morning and welcome back to Weeks Bay Reserve. My name is Angela. Today's lesson we're going to talk about trees, and I wanted to start the lesson with one of my favorite books called The Giving Tree. The Giving Tree is by a man named Shel Silverstein, and he did books and then also a lot of poems, and so you may have read some of his poems before. You may have seen this book. Once there was a tree, and she loved a little boy. And every day the boy would come, and he would gather her leaves and make them into crowns and play king of the forest. He would climb up her trunk and swing from her branches and eat apples. And they would play hide and go seek. And when he was tired, he would sleep in her shade. And the boy loved the tree very much, and the tree was happy. But time went by, and the boy grew older, and the tree was often alone. Then one day the boy came to the tree, and the tree said, "Come, boy, come and climb up my trunk and swing from my branches and eat apples and play in my shade and be happy." "I am too big to climb and play," said the boy. "I want to buy things and have fun. I want some money. Can you give me some money?" "I'm sorry," said the tree, "but I have no money. I have only leaves and apples. Take my apples, boy, and sell them in the city. Then you will have money and you will be happy." And so the boy climbed up the tree and gathered her apples and carried them away, and the tree was happy. But the boy stayed away for a long time, and the tree was sad. And then one day the boy came back, and the tree shook with joy, and she said, "Come, boy, climb up my trunk and swing from my branches and be happy." "I'm too busy to climb trees," said the boy. "I want a house to keep me warm," he said. "I want a wife and I want children, and so I need a house. Can you give me a house?" "I have no house," said the tree. "The forest is my house, but you may cut off my branches and build a house. Then you will be happy." So the boy cut off her branches and carried them away to build his house. And the tree was happy. But the boy stayed away for a long time, and when he came back, the tree was so happy she could hardly speak. "Come, boy," she whispered. "Come and play." "I am too old and sad to play," said the boy. "I want a boat that will take me far away from here. Can you give me a boat?" "Cut down my trunk and make a boat," said the tree. "Then you can sail away and be happy." And so the boy cut down her trunk and made a boat and sailed away. And the tree was happy, but not really. And after a long time, the boy came back again. "I am sorry, boy," said the tree, "but I have nothing left to give you. My apples are gone." "My teeth are too weak for apples," said the boy. "My branches are gone," said the tree. "You cannot swing on them." "I am too old to swing on branches," said the boy. "My trunk is gone," said the tree. "You cannot climb." "I am too tired to climb," said the boy. "I am sorry," sighed the tree. "I wish that I could give you something, but I have nothing left. I am just an old stump. I am sorry." "I don't need very much now," said the boy. "Just a quiet place to sit and rest. I am very tired." "Well," said the tree, straightening herself up as much as she could. "Well, an old stump is good for sitting and resting. Come, boy, sit down and rest." And the boy did. The end. So, do you have a favorite tree that you like to climb sometimes, or do you have trees in your yard that you get fruit off of, like apples or oranges or pears? Trees give us so much, and in this book, it talks about some of the uses that we as humans have for trees, like building houses or building boats. Some of you may help your parents cut firewood in the wintertime to put in your fireplace. So, trees do offer us a lot. You know, we make paper out of trees, so the paper in this book was made from trees. And the pencil that you may be writing with right now is made from trees. But what else do trees do for us? Well, in the book talks about the trees providing shade for the boy to lay in and rest. And the trees do provide a lot of shade. And so, right now, in the really hot time of the summer, it is so nice to have trees like we have around us that provide a lot of shade because it makes it so much cooler than if we were standing out in the open sun. And it's not just nice for us, but it's also nice for all of the animals that live here in the woods and use these trees for home and for food. And so I brought along a couple of things today that I wanted to share with you and to show you. And I'm going to start with this big piece of tree right here. So this is probably off of a tree that might have started to die, but was still standing up. And then do you know what comes in and makes the holes in these trees? Any guesses? These holes were made by some species of woodpecker, and they make the cavities in the trees, and this is where the woodpeckers will build their nest and will have their babies. And so if you see holes like this, sometimes you can see woodpeckers, adult woodpeckers, flying to the hole, and you'll hear the babies calling, and you might see them feeding the babies in a cavity or a hole like this in the tree. And lots of birds will make nests in trees. And here's another example. This is a different type of nest that you can find in a tree. And look how little this nest is. Do you know what type of bird may have made this nest in the tree? Did you say hummingbirds? Yeah, this is a hummingbird nest. And hummingbirds use silk from spider webs to build their nest. And then can you see how camouflaged this nest is? They actually take lichen off of trees and put it on the outside of the nest, and the nest just blends into that tree branch. And so lots of birds make nests in trees, but squirrels also make nests in trees. So if you walk around the woods and you see a nest in the branches of a tree and it's really messy looking, that might be a squirrel's nest. What else uses trees to make their homes? Can you tell what this is? This looks like a big tree branch and it's pretty heavy, and there's no bark on the outside anymore. So this is from a beaver, and the beaver has stripped all the bark off because beavers actually eat that outer portion of the tree, the bark. And then look down here at the bottom. This is where the beavers gnaw on the tree, and the tree will fall across a stream, and it'll back up all the water and make a pond, because beavers like to live in ponds. So they make their own, what we call dams, out of trees to back up water, and then they make houses right in the middle of those ponds out of these trees. So they use trees a lot. And then trees also provide food for different animals. We know that some trees produce berries that birds like. Do you know what tree produced this? These are pine cones, and you can see with this one, there's still some of the scales on it, but then some of the scales have been taken off. And on this one, the scales have been totally taken off. And what did that was a squirrel. So squirrels take those scales off, and they're looking for the seeds within that pine cone. And these are leftover parts of the seeds. And then things like our oak trees will make acorns, and sometimes they produce really large amount of acorns, and that will draw things in like turkeys or deer. And then even things like black bears will climb trees to get at acorns, and squirrels will climb trees to get at the acorns. So trees provide a lot for us. One thing I didn't mention, and I bet you knew this at home, is that trees, just like all plants, provide oxygen for us to breathe, and they help keep the air clean, taking in things like carbon dioxide out of the air, and then also producing oxygen for all of the living things to breathe. So I love trees. I think they're really special for us. I encourage you at home to get outside when you can. Go find your favorite tree, safely climb them if your parents will let you, and just tell a tree thank you for all that you provide for us. And now we're going to take it over to Nancy as she shows you an art project with trees.
Hi guys, welcome to Squeaky Sneakers, our virtual learnings this summer at Weeks Bay. Today we're going to talk about how many trees do we see across the estuary over here. Let's look over here. And I just saw a little girl here visiting with her mom, and I asked her how many trees she saw, and she said, "That's too many, I can't count." But if you ever come out here and you're observing nature, you don't have to pay attention to all the trees. Maybe there's one tree that you like the shape of it. Maybe there's something special. That I think trees are kind of like people. Each one of them has their own personality. I'm going to show you a lesson that's a lot of fun to do. All you need is your watercolor paper. You need some masking tape. And what the first thing I'm going to have you do, right now, no trees ever come with a straight, square, rectangle trunk, do they? I think not. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to start ripping, because I like the broken edges, because that looks more like nature. I don't want it to look like a rectangle. So I'm going to take the broken edges and lay those outside. And I'm going to come up here and I'm going to start. And I'm looking over here and I see a tree that really intrigues me over here. So I'm breaking my masking tape into little shapes. And sometimes I even break up a whole bunch of pieces like this. And I might put them on the edge of the table just so I can be ready, because they're big branches to smaller branches. First thing I want you to do is take the tape and we're going to rip it. And we're going to create trees using masking tape, which sounds kind of odd, but I like the broken edges on the outside, because a tree isn't cut straight like a piece of wood or a piece of paper. They have these kind of edges that have some character to show the way they've been grown. So I'm going to start here, and what I'm doing is I'm taking the tape, tearing it little pieces. I'm going to put it down. If you want the branches to kind of twist around so you can see something like what I'm creating here. Now, if I were actually drawing, let me just show you this. If I were actually drawing the tree that I see, maybe if I just show you a quick sketch of what I'm drawing, I'm seeing a tree over there. And I'll turn it around in just a second. I love it how it's kind of leaning over and bending over the water. I mean, it's like partly in the bank, but how in the world is to me, the whole tree is like this. It's coming up and it keeps leaning over the water. It even has one that comes down toward the ground. So I'm identified a tree that I want to know the story of that tree. Why is it there? Why is it growing? Why is it not growing straight? Was there a bully next door and it had to lean over to get its air and its light? So the next thing I do, so that's in my mind, but I'm not drawing on the paper. I'm drawing with the masking tape, just like this, okay? So I just keep attaching, and I know you can't see it because it's similar colors. I worked on this before we got started. Here's my tree that I'm seeing that I just drew for you. So here's the next step. When you have your tree filled with tape, and don't forget, half the fun of it is seeing how teeny tiny can you make some of these little tiny stems, because the branches get smaller and smaller as they reach out. So you can go make some smaller ones. So once I've had that all done, here's the next step. This is really fun. I'm going to give the whole paper, this is watercolor paper. I like watercolor paper that comes in a weight of about 140 pounds. It holds the pigment of the watercolors better than a lighter weight. You can get this at any craft store locally. It's not terribly expensive, but it's a great way to start learning how to create art. Watercolor paper and some watercolors. I like to use the brand Yarka. Prang are good. I'd rather spend a little bit more money on good paper and the paints. Okay, so right now looks like it's taken a bath. It looks like it was in a lot of rain. The next thing I'm going to do, and I'm kind of looking at that tree, and all I did was I drew the skeleton. I drew the branches and the trunk. I did not draw the foliage because right now this lesson I'm talking about is kind of partially realistic and partially abstract. I'm going to come in there and think, where do I think the sun might be coming through the branches? So I'm not drawing anything. I'm just adding splotches of color. So maybe I think the sun is here. Maybe I think I'm not drawing the treetop. I'm not drawing branches. I'm just adding colors because you'll see how it's going to come out. Next thing I'm going to, okay, I know some of you want some green in here. Maybe I'll give it some green. But because this is an artistic venture here, I'm going to add other colors in between it. Other colors in between it, because what I'm doing is kind of creating like almost like a tie-dye sky. It's kind of like I'm just filling up the whole paper with colors so they meet together, because what I'm really paying attention to here is what the tree trunk and branches that I called the skeleton, like a human has a skeleton. I'm sure there's better words in the biological world, but it's the base of it. I've got some reds here that are kind of hot pink. I've got some reds that look like a fire engine. So I'm going to fill it all up like this. And I'm trying to do mine quickly so you can see. I just want it to be, the goal here, one of my favorite colors in nature is a dark purple, especially underneath the tree, because that's how I often draw my shadows. It's okay if you go over. It's okay if you go over. This is what it looks like when it's nice and wet. Okay, I'm going to have to sit and let that dry. Let me show you how it's going to look. This is a different tree that I drew and painted before, but I had to have one dry to show you. So when you let that dry really well, it's like color bombs of color. The next step you'll do is you will pull off the tape. When it's completely dry, you pull off the tape, like right here. If you come in closely, and I'll hold it up. Let me find. Here's some so this is tape right here. See, when I pull it up, underneath is going to be the white tree branches. So I left some here to show you. As I pull up these little pieces here, here's another one. You can see it just looks the same color as the background. I pull it up and reveal it. So it looks like that. So it's really kind of fun because what you've done by using the masking tape as an isolation, you have not allowed the paint color. It's a resist. So I colored this whole paper with like color bombs of color. But here's the tree that I was drawing that day. So here's another thing you can do, and I'm going to hold it upside down. Once it's all finished, sometimes I take a really small brush. If you want to be really artsy, you can come here. Now watch what I'm going to do. I'm going to find a place that has a lot of pigment in it. Right here, this has a lot of pigment, color that's dried on the paper. I might pull some of that off in my brush. I'm going to come in here and add a little shadow. You can pick one side of the tree trunk to add some shadows. See how I did that? So you don't even have to put more paint on your brush. Okay, let's say I want a different color. I like this. Let's see how dark this is right here. I'm going to wet my brush. This is completely dry, but I can pull up the pigment and add some shadow right here. Another thing I like to do is sometimes I'll take a marker and I'll come in and just draw squigglies around the edge. Would you look in that bin over there, the red one? Sorry, I forgot that. Bring me that red bin. Yeah. I'm going to show you what I do with Sharpies. Here's my Angela. She can be in the picture. Hey, yay. Okay. Angela and I have done the Squeaky Sneakers for probably at least 10 years, I'm thinking. So what you can do, and I'll take a bigger Sharpie so you can see. One of the last things I like to do, and you don't have to do this, but sometimes I come in and I might just outline along the branches. And don't try to draw it perfectly straight. You don't need a ruler. Pretend you're driving, your mom's driving the car and going over bumps. And go ahead and just, all I want to do is add a little black element to add some dark color to it. If I want to come in here and add some detail, sometimes some trees have markings. You can add some patterns, like some of the tree trunks have different markings. So I'm just showing you, sometimes I might even write a poem in the middle of my tree trunk, my branches. So there's so many ways you can do with this. You can write words in here. You can write about the environment. Sometimes I even hide little foxes in there or little squirrels. If you like to draw creatures, draw it right in the tree branch. This is our lesson. This is how we love our trees. Welcome to coming with us to Weeks Bay, right on the beautiful water here. And thanks for being part of our lesson today. Bye.